The criminal trial of Derek Chauvin is still underway. And if you're actually following the trial, watch. The criminal trial of Derek Chauvin is still underway. And if you're actually following the trial, watching the live streams, you'd probably know it's not going that well for the prosecution. If this is their case, and they're basically wrapping up at this point, and we're going to move to the defense's case, I would say Murder 2 is absolutely out the window, but we will see. In the meantime, riots erupted across Minneapolis yesterday because of another police shooting, and this one is where things get really interesting. There's a guy who was shot and killed. The female officer was trying to pull out a taser. You can hear her say in the body camera footage, taser, 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 but she's holding her handgun, and she shot him once. One time he said, holy S, I shot him. Now people are rioting, and a lot of people are looting. So this is where things start getting complicated because the judge has refused to sequester the jury while one of the jurors actually lives in this suburb. I can't imagine this is going to be a fair trial, but we'll see how this turns out. And I think we really got to get into the merits of what happened with this new shooting because Minneapolis is hot. Okay, you've got people who are ready to riot, who want to riot, and people who want to exploit that and loot. And then this happens. There's a lot to go over in terms of justification. What'll happen with this cop? Is she going to be Chauvin number 2? Honestly, I think she might be. So we'll get into all that. We got a bunch of other fun stories. We're going to talk about the new Disney Plus show, the Marvel show, Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier. They're apparently doubling down on the wokeness, and everyone's making fun of them. So we'll get into that. And we got a really great guest. We got Phil Labonte of All That Remains.
Hello.
What's going on, man? Do you want to just quick little intro? You've been here before.
I am Phil Labonte. I sing for the heavy metal band All That Remains. We've been a metal band for 20 years. I am active in the Twitter sphere. I'm at Phil That Remains.
Libertarian? Is that
small L? You know,
right.
I mean,
like most people.
Most reasonable people. I'm not a lolbertarian.
Yes,
I guess.
thank
you. Yeah.
Cool, man. Ian's chilling.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Ian Crossland over here from IanCrossland.net. Thanks for coming.
And I'm in the corner pushing buttons.
Every creature deserves life.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, we actually have a new website.
Diversity
I can't
is our
believe it.
greatest
It's up. It's not perfect. It's, you know, just we're working towards getting everything ready to go. And we got to the point where we're like, okay, we want to do this 2 weeks ago. Let's just put it up. It improves a lot of the bugs we've been having before, makes everything prettier and more streamlined. Go to timcast.com, become a member, because it's not just about supporting this show. It's not just about providing us that security in the event we get banned from YouTube or any of these other platforms. If that happens, you will find us at timcast.com, but it's about more than that. We're talking with some comedians about doing sitcoms. We're already looking to hire more editors, news editor,
Beauty
paranormal.
lies in variation.
We want to make culture. We want to make fun, exciting things. We actually just filmed a vlog the other day with this pro BMX guy, Mike Feedy, who actually finally grunded the grind bar. That's right. The bar we have in the garage, it's not completely built yet, but he did a gap to feeble on his bike, and it was amazing. He almost tore down the whole pole barn, which was also very cool. And we filmed all of it. We're gonna put that stuff up. That's what we want to do. We want to inspire people, inspire young people about just being good people, getting away from this weird cultist, cult woke stuff, doing normal content, speaking truth to power in the real way. That's what we're going to do today. So again, go to timcast.com, become a member. But don't forget, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's jump into that first story. This one's got me hot, riled up. I'm all angry. Check out the story from Intelligence or NY Mag. Authorities say cop accidentally shot and killed Dante Wright. This is an interesting story. Yesterday, we heard that these cops shot and killed a guy. He got pulled over, so his mom says, because he had air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror. They say that's illegal in Minnesota. When he was pulled over,
I'd like you to
the
meet
mom
my
says
friend,
she heard on the phone,
Stumpy.
he was calling her trying to get the insurance information. The cops say, get out of the car. He says, why? And they say, we'll tell you when you get out of the car. Apparently then the mom, gets off the phone. He puts the phone down. Body camera footage finally gets released. It got released today. I guess the cops were very eager to put this out. I guess the cops thought that by putting out this footage, it would calm things down. In my opinion, no. It's only going to make things worse. In the mind of these cops, they're like, see, you have this lady cop, and she yells, taser, taser, taser. You've got Dante Wright resisting on camera, trying to jump back in his car and take off, and she's holding her gun. She yells, taser 3 times, shoots him once, and then says, holy S, I shot him. He drove a little bit, crashed, and then he died in the car. So the cop's saying, look, We genuinely believe it was an accidental discharge, that she was trying to tase him. There's a lot of issues here. First and foremost, Black Lives Matter protests and riots erupted immediately. Then many of these people who had been seen at these rallies started looting stores. I get these people hitting me up on Twitter and they're like, how do you even know those people are Black Lives Matter? And there's like a photo going around of them literally waving a Black Lives Matter flag. I'm like, come on, dude. I'm not trying to besmirch the good name of literally everybody who believes in justice. I'm pointing out these people are protesting 1 minute. Some of them go off and loot. It just happens. Some looters exploit the whole system. Now, all this is happening in the backdrop of the Chauvin trial, so things are going to get absolutely nuts. Summer is lighting up, and there's a meme going around where it says, how to tell it was summer, 1990s. And it's the guy holding up Punxsutawney Phil or whatever that groundhog's name is. And it says 2020, and it shows a dude standing in a car with his fist up, and there's fires all around him. Yeah, that's right. We know that it's getting warm outside because the riots are going to start. And if these cops think that any one of these extremists that are going around burning down the city are going to give them an inch, they're insane. I think this lady cop is going to go to jail. They're going to try and charge her with whatever they can. They might even get her on murder 3. We'll break all that down. But, you know, before I go nuts and just rant on all this stuff, I want to just throw it to you guys, like your thoughts immediately on the news coming out of these riots and stuff.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that she had an accidental discharge, and that was purely negligence. She didn't know what she was doing. The police frequently need more training. Yeah, she panicked. You know, you hear stories about, you know, police looking for, or they're talking about defund the police. And honestly, the police probably need more funding for training.
That's what I've always been saying.
Yeah, I mean, if you are given the power over life and death of citizens, if you are going to be given a firearm to go out in the community and stuff, you want your police officers to have as much training as possible. You probably should roll back legislation because you don't want police doing all the jobs that they're supposed to do. I understand that being a police officer is hard. I'm not like an ACAB dude at all. And it's a difficult job, but that doesn't mean that we have to make exceptions for when they make mistakes. You have to be held to account when you make a mistake, and that negligence cost a man his life for nothing because he was, like we talked earlier, the reason that he had a
so we're going to get into the full layers of this thing right now. You're going to go right for it.
I mean, you know, I'm a big 2A guy, so, you know,
Yep.
the reason that he had a warrant was because he was carrying a gun in violation of state law. But in my opinion, there shouldn't be a state law regarding carrying a gun.
I agree.
So
this is a sandwich here. We got a libertarian. He shouldn't have resisted libertarian argument, right? The way I see it is, here's what happens with this guy. He gets pulled over. He didn't realize he had a warrant. Andy No put up the record of what the warrant was all about. Here's what I think happened. They say he was in possession of a firearm without a permit, and he fled by means other than a vehicle, both misdemeanors. I think this guy got stopped at one point, and he had a Ruger 45. And the cops saw the gun and said, you're under arrest, and he ran and got away. I bet he thought he was clean. He got away. The cops got a warrant for his arrest. So when he gets pulled over, he's thinking like it's no big deal. Then when they're like, get out of the car, and he's like, what's going on? You're under arrest. Then he's like, I gotta flee. I gotta get out of here. He shouldn't have resisted arrest. If he didn't, listen, so like, I guess where we're going with this is, he shouldn't have received any warrant or charges simply because he had a gun. But if he didn't resist, and he just put his hands behind his back on 2 misdemeanors, then a gun rights group or someone could have advocated for his right to bear arms.
Yeah.
You know.
You never should resist because it always ends with more. It always escalates to more force.
Well, I never say never, but 99.9%
Almost.
of the time.
Yeah. It's your chances of getting shot go up exponentially as soon as you resist. So fight the fight in the court. You don't fight the police. You're going to lose, and there's always more cops. Like there are always more cops coming. There's backup coming, and there's backup to backup. I mean, it's like GTA. Eventually, the National Guard with tanks come if you kill enough cops in the game, right? So eventually, they're gonna come with like the APCs. You are gonna get shot, killed. Don't fight the cops. Fight in court. That being said, you shouldn't have to have so many interactions with the police. You shouldn't have to worry about I had a gun and the police are going to take me to jail for it, you know, just for possessing a gun. So
when I say never say never about resisting, I'm not talking about You know, a cop says, look, you got a warrant, you're under arrest. The reason I say that is because, like, there might be a cop committing a crime, legit.
Sure.
And he's like, I'm a cop, I can do what I want. Okay, that's different. You know what I mean? That's why I say never say never. If you get stopped by a cop and he's like, look, I'm arresting you, you're not going to win.
Nope. No.
If you're trying to get in a physical fight.
Yeah.
So smart people, you know, you keep your mouth shut. You just remain silent, put your hands behind your back. You call a lawyer as soon as you can, and you got to fight in the system. It's not easy.
The right to remain silent is a right that is an option, and it's also your absolute best option if you feel that you're in a position where the police are doing something wrong. Explain, say, look, I don't consent to any searches. Here's my information. And then you don't have to say anything else if you don't want. They're going to say that you're being uncooperative. They're going to say things to try and intimidate you. They're going to say things to try and make their own job easier, because that's what it boils down to, is they want their job to be easy, because most of them look at it as it's just a job. I'm doing my job. This is, you don't make my job harder. But you still aren't obligated to talk to the police. Just don't say anything, but don't resist.
Now we go to the next layer of this whole thing. The rioting is the worst part about all of it. Like,
well, the dead guy's the worst part about all of it. Then the second worst thing
right,
is
absolutely. I mean, like, moving beyond that.
Sure.
That's what I should clarify, too. After this instance, we have a bunch of people going around rioting, destroying everything. And for what? For what? Why? Why are they going to T-Mobile and GameStop and stealing, twerking in the parking lot as they do it? It's not for justice.
No, it's not.
But is the media going to come out and be like, opportunist looters are destroying the city?
No, because clicks.
Yep.
I mean, the more intense the situation gets on the ground, the more people are going to click the headlines, the more profit the media will make.
This is weird to me, though. Like, you'd think the shock content of, like, rioters burn down the city would be the narrative that would generate the most clicks for like a suburban family. They should be writing headlines that are like, crazy rioters are burning down the city. How long until they come to your house? Instead, they're like, peaceful protesters are shopping without permission at night.
I got nothing. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. I don't know what they're thinking. I agree with you. The stories themselves, I feel like, are enough to get people to click. I think that the narrative that's being spun by most of your major media outlets is what they believe people want to read. So, like you said, side with the audience, and I think that's what people really want to.
You said that you searched riot on Google search.
We'll jump to that.
That's crazy.
But I want to get back on the gun thing, because, like, the one thing that's really pissed me off, I tweeted, this lady cop, send her to jail, lock her up.
Yeah.
And it was funny because all these lefties were like, based Tim? Like, is Tim like? Whoa, hold on. There's two things I want to say here. I've bought a bunch of guns recently, and every time I go there, there's one very important thing that every gun owner has told me. No matter what happens, you are responsible for what comes out of that barrel.
Absolutely.
Accident or otherwise. You got to take responsibility. That's why it is your responsibility to have all of the basic training. Don't point the gun at something unless you intend to destroy it. Keep your finger off the trigger. Guns are always loaded. All of these rules. Now, I get it. This lady, she screwed up. She thought she was going for a taser. She yelled taser, but she was holding her gun. Heat of the moment, she was panicked. People don't realize that stress. She's still responsible for what comes out of that gun.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the other thing, though, because we were getting into this. I'm extremely pissed about this whole interaction. I don't blame the cops themselves for being like, he's got a warrant, we got to arrest him, because they don't necessarily know what this is all about. But like we mentioned, this guy had he had a gun, and that was the grounds for him being charged with the crime. What law did he break? The Constitution says shall not be infringed.
Yep.
He didn't rob anybody. And I'll tell you what really bugs me is I'm seeing conservatives post, this guy, there's one viral Twitter post where he's like, this guy would have robbed you in 2 seconds because he's got photos of him pointing a gun. I'm like, nah, you have a right to bear arms, sorry.
Absolute garbage take. The idea that someone can predict that this guy would have done this or would have done that, there is absolutely no way of knowing it. And just because the conservative doesn't like the way the guy looks doesn't mean that the guy doesn't have rights. He has rights.
For sure. I do think there's like photos of him with like his gun and he's like pointing it at the camera, and I'm like, that's cringy.
I mean, it's
But you're allowed
cringy,
to
but I know that there are pictures of me holding guns out there, I mean, I'm a big
Yeah, right.
two-way guy. I've gone and I've got videos on my YouTube page of me at classes training, which I'm gonna take 1 second and steal the spotlight here. If you own guns, get training, please get training. It's the best thing, the most responsible thing you can do is know how to properly use your gun. All right, sorry.
You were saying before the show you took a police training gun class.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was
I think-
totally inadequate.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I've done first time I ever shot, I went to a range with some other gun people. Well, I should say with one guy who was like well versed in guns for a variety of reasons. He was a conflict reporter, and he's been in countries where they have full auto just rampaging about. So that's where he gave me some basic instruction. I wouldn't say it was like a legit training, but I actually did do an interview with a police trainer and went through the full police training. It's like a day. It's 1 day. So I'm like sitting in a classroom. They're going over all this basic stuff. They're talking about, a good shoot, a bad shoot, things like that. And then they allowed us to just sit in on it. And then afterwards, we went to their range, and they walked me through the use of like all these different guns, down from like starting with like a 22 handgun, like really easy for someone who's never shot before, even though I had, and then up to, I can't remember what the highest caliber they had was. You said, what did you think it was, like a 10 millimeter?
It could have been 10 millimeter, yeah.
It felt like it was bigger
Some
than
kind of
45
Magnum or something.
Something Magnum probably. And so I shot all these different guns, and the reason I say it was inadequate because I'm like, dude, I shot like 12 bullets. You know what I mean? And my aim is not good with these things. I was missing everything. Now, long guns, a lot easier to be accurate with. But I'm imagining like a lot of these people who went through this were doing it to get some kind of certification. And then you put these people out in the street.
Yeah.
So
certification's not enough. The big reason to go for training, just a certification is basic understanding and stuff. The reason you should go for training is so that way you know how to operate the gun should you need to. You learn things like clearing your garment if you're carrying it concealed, things that are practical, and how to draw your gun and keep your finger off the trigger while you're drawing it, because one of the things that happens too frequently is people grab their gun and their hand goes right into their finger goes right into the trigger guard when they're pulling it out, and then they have a negligent discharge and stuff.
This is something we were talking about just before the show. I'm like, what? She had a Glock. I'm pretty sure it was a Glock. And they don't have safeties. And I'm like, I wonder if this whole thing would just be solved if they gave her like a Beretta with like an actual safety on it. Just click the little safety up.
Those things are like we said, those are training issues where
Right.
if you have a firearm with a safety on it, again, if you train pulling a firearm with a safety and turning the safety off, it doesn't take any more time. You're not a slower, it's not slower to get the gun out and stuff. But it's a training issue. If you have a gun like that, you need to train with it. Training is one of the most important aspects of owning a gun.
She's going to be Chauvin number 2.
Probably. You should go to a training every year. I'm going this weekend. You should go to one training class a year. I can't drive that point home.
Did you argue that the dude got in his car and looked like he was diving for a gun?
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, that's fair. Completely
probably
fair.
what she thought.
He had a gun. No. She was going for a taser. She said taser,
No,
taser.
she thought he was going for a weapon, so
and
that's
she
why she
said taser,
Right.
taser. I think it's definitive. Like a reasonable person would conclude, she thought she was grabbing her taser, not her gun. But it is fair to conclude they thought he may be going for a weapon because his warrant was for having a weapon. I don't care for that argument. Everybody should have a weapon because the Constitution says you can.
Yeah.
And if you want to change it, you change the Constitution.
Yeah, but not everyone should dive for their weapon when they're being detained.
Nobody
Nobody
should dive
should
for
dive
their
for
weapon at all. 0 people.
Exactly.
There should be people diving for their weapon when they're getting arrested by the
Detained,
police.
yeah.
Cops pulling you over, you're getting arrested, you keep your hands visible, you obey, you put your hands behind your back, you let them cuff you, you keep your mouth shut, you deal with it through the courts. What people don't realize, when all these people resist arrest and they're like, this is BS, man, you can't arrest me. Dude, this is the good side of things. In some countries, they just beat you to death right there on the spot. Yeah. In some countries, they just put a cap and then they're done. In America, oh no, you have to go and have a lawyer represent you, and you get to actually come out and bond. Some places are doing cashless bail
Literally
now.
first world problems.
Yeah.
As much of a hassle as it is, you're totally right. You are 100% on the money there. It is first world problems that you have to go to court and go through a justice system, as opposed to getting your ass handed to you,
or just being locked up and thrown away the key. It's amazing that we're so used to this amazing system that the founding fathers had to die for.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? You might know this better than me. Where it's like a certain number of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence lost their fortunes, were killed, their houses were burned to the ground.
Yeah,
that's what they fought for, to ensure that when we get arrested, we get to go to court.
They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor.
Yep.
And many of them died and didn't have anything left to their kids. Their houses were burned. Their families were killed. We know about a lot of the founding fathers that survived and stuff, but there were people that signed the Declaration that lost everything, and died for it. So
and part of that, what they got us was the Bill of Rights, which is the right to a speedy trial, right? That's in the 5th, I think, right?
It is in the 5th, yeah.
Quite literally, the right to a trial is that you're going to get arrested, you're going to go before a judge, and you can ask for a jury of your peers. It's not easy, and it's not always fair. I think, it's better than 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer.
Absolutely.
But we strive for that, and it's not easy, and there is injustice. But it's like, dude, you're getting arrested. I'd be like, man, I'm sure glad I'm not in Turkey.
Yeah, really. Or in Chile.
Yeah.
I like how you phrase it. You get to go to court. Because in a lot of countries,
you're lucky to go to court.
You just get beat down, or if you don't bribe them, then you suffer.
Yeah.
In Turkey, if you're a journalist, they just lock you up and you don't get out.
The oubliette.
Yeah, that's just to go to jail.
And then
Holy
the Saudis come and kill you in the embassy if you're named Khashoggi.
So Turkey has the worst laws for journalism. And so I've been there reporting a couple times, and the pro-Turkey people try to justify it, saying, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. Turkey is really good for journalists. The people who are arrested aren't journalists. They're like activists claiming they're journalists because they have a cell phone. And I'm like, so journalists? Like, sorry, dude, I get it. I get what you're saying. So we see these people out. It's one thing if someone's like, I'm a journalist, and they throw a Molotov cocktail. It's another thing when there's a guy wearing an Antifa sticker is just filming.
Yeah.
Push that guy aside. He's allowed to film. It's an act of journalism. But in Turkey, they don't care. They lock you up. They throw away the key. You don't get a First Amendment. You don't get a Fifth Amendment. You don't get a Second Amendment.
You don't even have the First Amendment in countries that allegedly have the freedom of speech.
Like Britain. You don't have a First Amendment.
In the UK, you can get thrown in jail for bad Facebook posts. In Canada, you can get thrown in jail for saying the wrong thing.
In the UK, you could do something like, I don't know, teach your pug to do like the Roman salute or something.
For instance.
And for instance, yeah. And then they'll lock you up. And then
I love Mark.
Then you can teach your other pug, who's actually a black pug, to do the black power fist, and they don't care at all.
Hypothetically, yeah.
I gotta say, for those that aren't familiar, I'm making a reference to Count Dankula.
He's the best.
When he did his first video, which got him in trouble, was he wanted to make his dog a Nazi, his girlfriend's dog, because it was the nastiest thing he could think of. But he later on, after all of this he's been through, he made a video where the other pug, who was black, he had it raise its fist for black power, and it's hilarious. And I gotta admit, the cojones on this guy. Going through the courts,
So
they try to lock him in jail. He's laughing. The media smears him, and then he's like, I'll do it again. but you know what he knew they wouldn't arrest him for the black power thing. That was the point. And the video is really good. He's like, oh no, the Labor Party's coming us to hide the Torah.
I hope he moves to the U.S.
Freaking
Yeah.
hilarious.
He kills me.
He belongs
So
here. That's
funny.
I feel for people when they see like American comedy and they try and pull it off in their own country and get busted by their cheap law enforcement.
Well, let's talk about the media, because you mentioned this a moment ago, Ian. Check us out. When you Google search riots right now, my friends, those of you who are not watching, just listening, we know that riots erupted in Minneapolis. We know that people are scared. The jurors are scared that if they give, I think this was expressed in the trial during jury selection, that if they say not guilty for Chauvin, the city is going to burn to the ground. What you need to understand is it's not just about whether or not Chauvin gets freed or goes to prison. There's 3 charges. Chauvin can be acquitted on 1, 2, or 3, or none. And that means out of all the potential scenarios and everything we've seen, I would be willing to bet you will get a headline that says, Derek Chauvin acquitted in the murder of George Floyd. And then it'll say, he was convicted on 3rd-degree murder and manslaughter, but acquitted in 2nd degree. And they use the most shocking headline, acquitted in the murder of, because they want you to freak out. With that, the media knows exactly what they're doing, and I can prove it. By simply go and Google, I gotta say, whatever their system is, whether it's intentional or not, is totally in on it. Right now, there's riots happening in Minneapolis. And guess what story you get when you go to Google and you type in the word riots? There it is. The first result out of 17 million. 9 hours ago, the Washington Post. Headline: Data about the Capitol rioters serves another blow to the white working class Trump supporter narrative. What? This was 3 months ago.
They need the milk.
I mean,
We just had riots the other day.
yeah. I mean, there's been riots going on in Portland for
A year.
Like every night. I know that I've seen stuff about it in the past month, and they're still talking about the Capitol riot.
Why?
Because the Orange Man is very bad, Ian. Don't you know?
Okay,
I
your point is made.
The Orange Man. He's very
it now.
bad, and people cannot forget that he is a very bad Orange Man.
How is it that Google, 17 million results, the top post, it's data about the cap, and then underneath it, people also searched for riots in Minnesota.
Why would they search for that?
Could you imagine being in Minnesota and being like, you're hearing bangs and screaming, and you're like, what's happening? So you go on Google and type it in. It's like Capitol riots. You go, I don't care about that.
It's ridiculous that you have to specify it is ridiculous that you have to specify what riots when it comes to a news like
That is
which
funny,
ones
though.
which has it been? Is the ones that have been going on in Portland? Is it the one that happened at the Capitol? Is it the one that's happening? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Hold on. You ready for the best part?
Sure.
I'm not done.
Give it to me.
I'm not done.
Give it
All
to
right,
me.
The first post, when you search for riots, is not Black Lives Matter. It's Capitol riots. Then you have people also searched for Newsweek, DW, and National Review talking about Minnesota. But these aren't the results for riots. These are people also searched for riot in Minnesota. Google is letting us know these 3 results are suggestions not based on the search term riots. And guess what the actual second listing is in the search term riots right now, as we literally had riots yesterday. Well, the first one was the Capitol, and the second one is from CNN 1 hour ago. Trump State Department appointee facing Capitol riot charges, released from jail. What's the third? Clear the Capitol, Pence pleaded. What's the fourth? You're going to die tonight. Body cam footage shows Capitol riots.
Don't forget.
And then, number 5, TMZ, Dante Wright.
Oh, not News Guardian.
TMZ got it right.
TMZ.
It is the 5th result right now, a day after the city was being ransacked and looted and there's tear gas and fires. They're still talking about the Capitol 3 months ago.
I suppose that it is fair to point out that this speaks to a point that you've made multiple times about the media loving Donald Trump and losing the revenue that he generated for them.
Yeah.
Because nothing in the past 10 years has gotten clicks like, the Orange Man being very bad.
But just why aren't they cognizant of this fact where they can just say, well, we have to move on? So like, what am I talking about on my main channel, Timcast? Last year, I'm like, Democrats, Republicans, election laws, what's happening, all very election related. And I get people going like, all you do is talk about politics now. You just talk about cultural issues. I'm like, dude, what's the big thing going on right now? Now, we're outside the election, and what am I talking about? Chauvin trial. Mm-hmm. I've got like 4 out of the past 5 videos about the Chauvin trial because this is the big impact. It's where the news is going. It's what's important. I'm not talking about Trump. Trump used to be, seriously, in like my tags, first word, because like it was always Trump. It was always something with Trump. And even I was like, geez, I'm tired. This guy's sucking up the air. Now we're in a new space. There's news happening. People want to know what's happening and what do you think about it. So for people come to me, they're like, Tim, tell me what you think about this, because most people already know what's going on. You've seen the news article yourself. You talk to your friends about it. You go online to find commentary, to maybe think of something or hear something you didn't think of yourself. I do this, right? So now people are going, and they're going to Google and type in riots. What's happening? Enter. The 5th search result was TMZ, and it was the first talking about Dante Wright. Do you know what the 6th is? Capitol rioter, ex-NYPD cop, stunned he's being held with inner-city criminals. New York Post. It's not just the left. The New York Post is a conservative outlet. They're the ones that broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. Even then, 11 hours ago. Amazing. And you know what's really funny? The next one is about Kenosha. It's remarkable to me that if you search for riots, you are not getting served information about what happened in Minnesota. And it's primarily because many of the big mainstream news sources that dominate search results ain't talking about it.
Do you cross-check DuckDuckGo? Do you search with DuckDuckGo ever?
No. I usually don't even use Google to find stories. I, go through various news sources, and I use Twitter, and I kind of curate.
I can't get it up on my phone. I'm interested to see if you search riot on DuckDuckGo.
That's a good point. Let me see if
Why can't you get it up on your phone?
I don't know how to switch it in my Brave browser on the fly. I'll check into it though.
All right, maybe DuckDuckGo's. I'm not saying I'm not blaming Google necessarily.
Right.
So the first result is recent news: massive riots in Minnesota. Minnesota riots clear the Capitol. So the first 2 in recent news
Let's make this
on
quick.
DuckDuckGo is Minnesota.
So it could
Then,
be. Oh,
hold on. Then we get general riot, not even news. So after that, it's like definition of riot, not even news. Let me click news to make sure I'm being absolutely fair.
Right, games.
Number one, when you go to riots, all DuckDuckGo, massive riots in Minnesota. Click the news tab. The first result, massive Minnesota riots. Massive riots in Minnesota. The second one, several Minnesota businesses looted. The third, clear the Capitol. So they still have some of these stories, but DuckDuckGo is prioritizing better, in my opinion.
could be the Google algorithm is just tainted towards trash bait, flash bait or whatever. Or it could be that Larry and Sergey are political. I mean, those guys run Alphabet. They're basically the owners of Alphabet.
It's the trash bait. We know that Google has a news source ranking where they, I think a bunch of conservative outlets don't appear in search, particularly Breitbart. I think Breitbart's omitted. And I think we saw this leaked, actually. I think it was Veritas or somebody leaked where it's here's the Google blacklist of all the websites they don't allow to appear in search or are limited. For a while, even my YouTube channels were. And then it wasn't until on this show I said, hey, my YouTube channels are blacklist. They removed it. So I'm like, Google must be listening.
They're listening.
But this is what's happening. Google, you know what I think it is? I think it's like a toilet being flushed and all the turds are being swirled towards the middle. So what happens is Google, I believe genuinely, and from their own bias, I'm not saying they're not doing things wrong. They think they're genuinely doing the right thing. They're like, we got to get rid of this fake news. Let's make sure we only prop up, CNN, Washington Post, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, etc., New York Times. Those outlets are then suffering. Their ratings are collapsing. Their subscriptions are down. So they're like, just make Trump, 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 Trump. So when we're 3 months out from the Capitol riots or protests or insurrection, whatever you call it, they're still doing it because here's what happens. Like many of the grifters, the people who are all about just pandering to the tribe, the news outlets built up an audience of angry establishment Democrats and leftists. If they come out now and say something, they're worried they will lose money. So they're probably sitting there. I've been in these editorial meetings. I imagine they all sit down and they're at the table and there's someone on the phone, some editor or some boss. They're like, okay, so what are the stories that we got? And they're like, well, we had those riots yesterday in Minnesota. And they're like, well, we haven't gotten a resolution yet. Why don't we hold off on that one? Oh, we can talk about the Capitol. Some of these guys are getting arrested. Capitol's great. Let's talk about the Capitol. And what you don't hear in the actual words, what underlines this, is the boss going, if we talk about the Minnesota stuff, we're going to piss off a lot of our subscribers and lose money. Capitol, now that's money, and that's safer for us. Let's go with that one.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a reasonable take, especially considering a lot of the more progressive news outlets are run by people that are not as interested in progressive issues as they are in the bottom line. When siding with your audience is the primary driver, you don't want to focus on things that will upset them or drive them away.
Do you think they were like, well, there were riots, so let's write a story with that flash word in it? And then so they said, okay, we got to write a story about riots because riots are popular right now. There's going to be a lot of riot search results. So then they picked the most trashiest riot, and they're like, let's write about the January 6th. Or is it just they've been writing about that crap anyway?
I hadn't thought about that, but maybe they do. I think that I would look in the next couple of days to see what happens. If there are a lot, or if there continue to be, because they didn't know that there were going to be riots today, 2 days ago, and some of the stuff that Tim was pulling up was from yesterday or the day before or whatever. The riots have started off today, I believe. So, or at least the ones in Minnesota because of the cops bad shoot.
Would you like to play a game?
Yes,
I would.
Would you like to play a game?
Click here.
So I pulled up 2 progressive sources.
Okay.
This is not science. This is just me pulling up 2 progressive sources, then MSNBC and Fox News, to see what they're talking about, and it's exactly as I thought. First, we have Slate.com. What's their headline story? Inflation is about to look freaky. Slate.com is a leftist publication. You'd think they'd be talking about something. We got over here a small little, blurb on the left. Is Derek Chauvin's defense flailing? The answer to that question is no, by the way. But the big story isn't about Minnesota. In fact, I don't even think I see anything on Minnesota. All right, okay. Well, Slate's not the biggest. Let's try Vox.
Yeah.
VOX. Vox.com. Okay. Let's jump over to Vox. And what do we see for the main number one story? The hottest number in conservation is rooted more in politics than science. Why the U.S. egg industry, the Christian right, the Chauvin trial feels momentous, Georgia companies banding together, natural-born citizens, Biden's plan, the bizarre push. Where's the Minnesota riots? Okay, hold on. Now, Fox News. Now, we know Fox News is going to be talking about the riots, right?
Rupert Murdoch.
All right, pull up Fox News. The top story is city manager fired for demanding due process for cop in deadly shooting. Mayor takes control of police. Okay, so we got Dante Wright from Fox News. It's actually, I wouldn't say it's right biased, but they're just saying the cop demands due process and got fired. That's fairly neutral, but they are talking about it, and they're talking about it in a positive light, right?
I mean, sort of.
You think it's a little biased?
Well, no, it's just that nowadays the Constitution is a right-leaning issue. It's not like the left doesn't give a crap about the Constitution.
All right.
Really.
Well, just below this on the front page of Fox News, bracing for violence, live updates, curfews in effect across Minnesota, crowds swarm NYC streets. All right, well, the two progressive sources weren't talking about it at all. Fox News is. Now, what do you think MSNBC has to say?
Nothing good.
MSNBC, top story. Yamashita Alcindor, Dante Wright's shooting is a recurring nightmare for black Americans. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. I thought the progressive outlets would probably blurb this somewhere but not really talk about it. And the big networks were going to choose their position. Fox News, this is bad, prepare for violence. MSNBC, it's a nightmare what's happening, not referencing the nightmare for everybody else as their city burns. So, you know what I like to say? I guess one thing I can give credit to what we do here. I tweeted the cop should be in jail. Like I already said, whatever comes out of that gun, that's your responsibility. Yeah. I'm not saying murder charges because that's not going to stick. There was no intent, but she screwed up. And I had a bunch of lefties saying, your followers sure are going to hate this one, Tim. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, what?
People don't know. People that aren't involved in the gun world at all, they don't know how people that are involved in the gun world think.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, conservatives, I think, who are more concerned about Black Lives Matter and rioting are going to be less pro-2A. Libertarians, who are very, very staunchly pro-2A, and not big L libertarians, just libertarian in general, are going to look at this and be much more about gun rights.
Yeah, if you're pro-2A, especially if you're a younger person that's pro-2A, the idea of being exclusionary when it comes to your pro-Second Amendment attitude, that is old person stuff. That is FUD talk. You know, like seriously, that is not what you see when you talk to people that are pro-2A nowadays.
You're saying they want it across the board.
It's a very inclusive thing. You've got people like Maj Touré and you got people like Colion Noir out there, really representing black people that have just as much love for the gun world as anyone else or as any white people do. So
if you tell me that this dude, in Dante Wright was a violent criminal who should be in prison and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't think you're actually pro-2A. I think you're just a tribalist.
Yeah.
If you say, look, man, he shouldn't have resisted arrest. The cop, I understand what happened. I agree. You're right. However, he should be allowed to have his gun.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been an issue in the first place.
We'll just reiterate this point because for this segment, Dante Wright should have just been arrested. He should have put his hands behind his back, and then someone could have advocated for him.
Yeah.
Because then they would have been like, is the only thing he's being charged with is that he was carrying a gun? I'm pretty sure the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What is his crime? And then you sue, he would have had standing to make a challenge, maybe up to the Supreme Court. And then he would have been exonerated, and it would have made the whole country better for everybody. Yeah. Shouldn't have resisted. He shouldn't have been criminalized in the first place for his right to bear arms. So it's a layered thing, it is. But, long story short, this is what we get from the media. But we do have more riots, so...
Don't worry, the riots don't end.
Oh, they don't end.
Don't worry, guys.
Fun doesn't end there.
This is
more riots.
More riots. Riots rock Montreal.
Whoa.
COVID-19 lockdown protests turn ugly.
Okay.
I mean, I don't blame them considering how the country, the federal government up in Canada has been behaving. But it is fairly impolite to riot, so I'm a little surprised.
Me too.
They're very polite up there.
Yeah, I think I disagree with the riots. I think the lockdowns at this point are proving to have been mistakes. We should have done, I think, what they call the surgical strike, where it's like protect the elderly, protect the vulnerable, and then have like limited restrictions.
Yep.
Now you got the Today Show. They were on this segment that goes viral where they're like, Texas and Florida see their COVID cases going down below the national average, whereas stricter states like New York and California see their cases rising. What could be causing this? It's like, I don't know, but at a certain point, maybe you should be like, we're seeing something here. Fauci gets asked about it, and he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the government has had such a bad reaction to, or bad policy, whatever you want to call it, to COVID since the beginning. I'm still of the opinion that they proved themselves to be unreliable and not worth trusting when they were telling people not to wear masks and then did the complete reversal. Especially seeing as it seems to me, if I understand correctly, the reason they were telling people not to wear masks was because they were concerned about whether or not people in the medical field would have enough. They're literally lying to the American people about things they believed would be helpful because essentially it was triage, or
right. Fauci
similar.
said this.
Yeah.
He said it like, we just want to make sure the medical community got their masks.
So I don't trust the government at all.
I'm kind of, look, I'm middle of the road, right? I got to say, the things that I find bothersome are you've got a lot of tribalistically pro-vax people taking their selfies and like gloating and smiling. You get Brian Stelter on CNN saying, why won't Fox News post selfies with their vaccines? And I'm like, dude, you're making it worse. If you talk to your doctor, if your doctor recommends it, go with what your doctor says. I was talking to somebody and they said their doctor actually recommended against it because, wife was pregnant and they were concerned about allergies and things like that. And I'm like, your doctor knows better than anybody. But then there are people who are like mad at me because I'm like, talk to your doctor. And if it's right for you, only your doctor can tell you. Yeah. And I got tons of friends who are posting vaccine selfies. I roll my eyes. Guys, it's like, I get it. You got your vaccine. Congratulations. Yeah, it
really is.
I mean, look, they're saying COVID might replace the flu. We know it's more serious than the flu. We know it's infectious. But I get it. I'm not going to go to the doctor and then post selfies and like join this tribal crowd. I think everybody's just trying to play tribal politics on this one. It's really simple.
That kind of stuff.
Talk to your doctor.
It's just absolute cringe. Yeah. It's fine if you want to get the vaccine. I'm likely to get one in the next week or two. If I can get one in New Hampshire, I'll be getting one.
Do you know which brand you're going to get?
Not the one that comes with free blood clots.
That was the AstraZeneca one. Dude, I saw this really amazing meme video. It is really funny. It's this dude, and he's like, it's him acting all the scenes. It's one of these TikTok meme videos, and he's like, he's playing the patient sitting there like, lazily, and the doctor, gives him the vaccine. He's like, there you go, you're all set. And then he goes, I've done it. I've collected all 5. And then he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, I've gotten the Pfizer, the Moderna, the AstraZeneca, the Johnson & Johnson, and the Sofli or whatever. And then the doctor's like, you need to go to the emergency room. And then he punches the doctor in the face. And he's like, why be immune when you can be invincible? And then a guy runs in, he's a cop. And then he uses telekinesis on him. It was a great meme video. I wish I remembered the guy's name. It was funny. Long story short, because I'm just kind of like, look, they have new flu shots every year. Yeah. And again, I know the flu is not nearly, like COVID's worse. I think that the mortality is like double or triple. But I don't go to Walgreens and take pictures and dance around and all the meme stuff we saw in the hospital. It's just, look, man, I've always been rather anti-establishment and I guess to a certain degree punk rock. I cringe at this, we're all holding hands under the rainbow and going to the doctor and posting these selfies.
Look, it's bad that people have lost their lives and have lost their jobs and their businesses and stuff. One of the more first world problems is just the level of cringe has gone through the roof because of COVID. The amount of people that are, the whole superheroes bowing to doctors picture that. It's just, I'm for, if your doctor says you should get the vaccine, I'm for getting it. I'm going to get it because I will do almost anything to get back on tour again because I miss touring so much. I love playing shows. It's not just my livelihood. I love performing. So if I got to get a vaccine to get on the road again, okay, fine. But man, if I see one more person wearing 2 masks in their their default picture on
in their bathroom.
Oh, it's just like, come on. These are
You
things.
know-
I get that you want to do this, but it's all this tribal virtue signal stuff. It's just, I'm gonna vomit.
The weird thing to me is like, I understand if people are concerned about the vaccine because it's under emergency use authorization, so it's not gone through final approval. Sure. I'm just like, talk to your doctor. But I think most of the people that have come through here in the past month have gotten their vaccines.
Yeah.
And we've like talked about it, and they're like, oh yeah, they're like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, what's this? I wouldn't call it anti-vax. I would call it, there's like people who don't trust the vaccine. And it's kind of weird to me because I'm like, I don't know, dude, talk to your doctor. I get it. Like, you're allowed to do what you want, read what you want. But I just feel like the way I've always explained it is, I went to my doctor a year ago and he prescribes me some like crazy, I don't even know what it's called. And I'm like, it's like this weird long word. And I'm like, sounds good to me. And now people are like, all of a sudden I'm concerned about this. I'm like, dude, I think the vaccine passport stuff goes over the top.
Very, 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 very over the top.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
But I think your medical history is your medical history. You talk to your doctor tells you what to do.
Talk to a bunch of doctors.
I think we've beaten the dead horse on this one, but let's do this. You mentioned you want to go back on tour. Absolutely, man. Check this out. CDC director says Michigan needs to shut down again amid rising coronavirus cases and will not be able to vaccinate its way out of a fourth spike. Come on, man. I feel like I got people saying like Tim's shilling for vaccines, and I'm like, dude, I've gotten a ton of vaccines before. I don't get it.
Man, I want to go back to Flint.
When they come back out and they're like, oh, even if you get the vaccine, we're still shutting the state down. I'm like, what am I supposed to tell people? If I can't go outside, well, I don't need the vaccine. If you're telling me I can't go out, I can't go to the store, all right, well, once we start reopening, I'll call my doctor and say, what do you think? I got food allergies. That was always like the issue for me on this. I'm not going to, and I'm 35, man. I'm not in the affected group. But if they were like, we're going to reopen everything and, it's easier if you get your vaccine, then I'll be like, all right, cool. We're getting back to the movie theaters and all that stuff. You're not going to wear a mask. But they're telling me I got to wear 2 masks and I can't go outside, but go get it anyway. I'm like, I'm chill. I'll wait. Like, I don't understand. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to be like anti-vax in any way. I'm just saying, I mean, I got time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, it comes back to the mistrust of, or at least for me, it comes back to the mistrust of government because they've had such a bad, even if it's just messaging, the messaging has been so just abhorrently terrible, just disgusting. And you're going to have people that don't trust what they're saying. And I mean, I don't feel like I should be expected to know what to do. I yell at a stick for a living, right? Like I sing in a band. Like I'm not the guy to ask or to tell you what you should do when it comes to vaccinations. I don't know. I have to go by what I read and by what I hear. And if you're only going by what you read and what you hear, you're literally basing your opinion on someone else's opinion. Right. You're saying this guy I trust and this is what I've heard from this guy. And so when it gets to people on Twitter being, rude and stuff like that, or having the, acting like they're so much better than other people because they're like, oh, this is what I believe, and you're so dumb for taking the vaccine because all the stuff that goes in there, or you're so dumb for not taking the vaccine because what do you know?
Talk to your doctor.
You work at the pretzel place in the mall. Shut your face.
I love it's like your doctor could literally prescribe you like Frazo Basil Bam. Shove it up your ass.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And people are like, you got it, doc.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's between you and your doctor, man. I don't want to know about that.
And then because their doctor recommended it, they're going to talk to you like you're a moron because you're not taking the suppository right now.
You can also get a second opinion. That's a big part of the medical industry. In fact, you're often encouraged
Not on Twitter.
Not on Twitter. If a doctor, you're entitled to one, then you get banned.
If a doctor tells you something and you question it, that's your right. Yeah. And you also have the right to then a second and maybe a third opinion and to look to other doctors. And you should be researching, if you're going to stick stuff in your body, what you're doing with it.
I'm just mad at Fauci because he has been the biggest discouraging factor in all of this. Yeah. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, Texas and Florida are doing all right. You know what I mean?
I just came from Texas, and there are still some of the larger chain stores like Walmart. You still have to wear a mask and stuff, but smaller places and smaller businesses, people don't wear them, and it's not, you don't see a lot of people freaking out. And I think there might be something to the idea that Texas is hitting 80s and 90s now, so people are outside and not cooped up, and maybe that does have something to do with it. But again,
that's
what
lockdown.
What the hell do I know? I sing in a band. I can only go by what I'm seeing. You know.
Yeah, Florida and Texas are warm, and so it could
is
be
California though.
Yeah, well, it could be you're outside, you're less likely to transmit, perhaps.
Yeah.
But again, not a doctor. Like I said, man, doctors prescribe you some weird stuff. But you know what?
They borrowed a lot of money to be able to do that stuff. Go talk to them and get your insurance company to give them some money so they can pay back their loans.
But what's worrying to me is that at a certain point, people are just not going to care anymore.
Yeah.
And there was this one thing, I think it was on CNN, where this woman was like, now is our chance to get the vaccine out, because if we don't,
Terrifying.
they're like, people are going to go out and do their own thing anyway. Enjoy their freedoms.
The worst thing about that is she misunderstands what the role of government is, misunderstands anything about human liberty, misunderstands why people are free, thinks that the government gets its power from the existence of the government as opposed to the consent of the governed. I mean, it is just listening to that person go on. I was appalled. It was one of the most offensive things that I've heard in ages, and I'm not easily offended.
Yeah, it's like they're going to enjoy their freedom anyway, so now's our chance. Like, come on, dude. Well, how about we get into one of the most dangerous stories for YouTube, as it were? Because, hey, if it's in the news, it's in the news. And who am I to judge? We have this story from the Daily Mail. You ready for this one?
Let's go.
Pentagon scientists reveal a microchip that senses COVID-19 in your body before you show symptoms, and a filter that extracts the virus from your blood.
Gimme.
I can't believe it when I saw this meme going around. I'm like, that's not
Can't be
real.
real.
I can't believe that's an actual story that is being. I mean, I'm surprised that it hasn't been squashed by Google and all the other.
60 minutes.
Yeah,
It's a 60-minute story.
it's a 60-minute story.
60-minute story.
No.
Let me read. Let me read a little bit. Let me read this. Pentagon scientists working inside a secretive unit set up at the height of the Cold War have created a microchip to be inserted under the skin, which will detect COVID-19 infection.
It's the mark of the beast.
Pentagon.
They're putting robots in you.
And a revolutionary filter that can remove the virus from the blood when attached to a dialysis machine.
Does it have lights on it? Are they shooting lights in your vein like Trump said?
Oh gosh.
They're gonna put a bleach. The team at DARPA have been working for years on preventing and ending pandemics. They assess the issues and come up with ingenious solutions, which at times appears to be more science fiction novel than working in a laboratory. One of their recent inventions, they told 60 Minutes on Sunday night, was a microchip which detects COVID infection in an individual before it can become an outbreak. The microchip is sure to spark worries among some about a government agency implanting a microchip in a citizen.
By some, they mean Jesus people.
By
They're
some,
they mean
I think they
people
mean
that are very religious.
Everyone.
I'm pretty sure they mean everyone. Except these, like, just, I don't know, man.
Bill Gates is like, yeah, let's do it. I want to put a chip in everyone.
Do you remember Verichip? This was like 10 years ago, I think.
Vaguely.
Or maybe like 15.
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
They're RFID chips they would implant in your hand.
Oh yeah.
And you could wave it by a door and the door would
Okay,
open.
yes. Yeah.
And it had your information on it. And the way it works is that the signal emitted from the reader provides enough power for it to bounce back a signal with information. It's brilliant. But when that came out, this is like 2000s. People were freaking out like, this is it. This is the mark of the beast.
There are already biohackers that have done that kind of stuff to
Totally.
themselves, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's people who put like full weird like Arduinos like in their arm. Your
Yeah.
body rejects that stuff.
Yeah.
But like this stuff has been around for a while, where there's been some kind of microchip embedding, and there's been all the conspiracy theorists. And the funny thing is, there's a meme going around because of I think Ryan Reynolds, where he posted a vaccine selfie, and he said upgraded to 5G today.
I saw that.
Now I'm seeing all of my like I'm seeing some of my friends and a bunch of memes where people are like getting 5G reception's great, and I'm like I get it, it's a funny joke. But the thing is, the media was desperately trying to tell people, even YouTube was against the rules. They're not putting microchips. There's no microchips. There's no COVID microchips. Stop. And then it's like, okay, fine. Okay, we won't say it. It's crazy. We know it's crazy. And then Sunday, 60 Minutes.
And it's okay.
There's microchips.
It's okay for 60 Minutes to do it too.
Yes.
This conversation probably got this stream defunded.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get in trouble for something like this. Because you know what happens? The way YouTube videos are moderated, it's typically some dude in like India or China or Mexico, and it's outsourced labor where some of these people.
Is it really?
Oh yeah. My understanding is, I'll put it that way, just in case, because But my understanding is it's outsourced labor because there's so much content. So you get some person who's watching it and they don't understand context. First, you get the robots that do it. And the robots are like, I see swears, beep, boop, boop, demonetized. Then if it escalates, you'll get a review from like a person and they're going to be like, oh, microchips, that's conspiracy theory. Boop, boop, demonetized.
Not anymore.
This happens to me all the time, though. Check it out. So I actually have, I actually know people at Google, but I have an actual like Google rep that I have to constantly message like, hey, this is demonetized. There was, we had 2 videos on this show, on this channel, where we criticized Ocasio-Cortez. We got demonetized because of it. And they said you violated our policy against being hateful towards an individual.
She'll send people to your house.
What, AOC?
Yeah, that guy. There was that person that was on Twitter that made a comment critical of AOC, and the police showed up, and the FBI showed up.
What? Really?
You didn't hear about this?
No.
Yeah, I forget. I don't remember the guy's name. He was a left-leaning guy, and he said something critical, and he ended up with someone at the FBI at his house about because he criticized AOC. So I don't think that it was AOC. Sending it,
well, to be fair, the first story that pops up is actually they tweeted about something really bad, like causing harm to somebody.
Spicy?
Yeah, I'd say it was spicy. So, but if you Google search AOC FBI, something I probably can't repeat on YouTube because
let's not go there.
Yeah. It wasn't just a guy saying like AOC, you suck. It was a guy who said something like, go do a thing to this person. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Do you see it? You see the story? Somebody was basically calling for harm against AOC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at this now.
Or is it a different? Because the one I saw was from a couple months ago.
No. This is not the one that I'm referring to.
So there is a story where a guy was being mean to her. Well, anyway, while you look that up, I'll just finish off this point. They demonetized these stories because we were critical of AOC.
Yes.
And then I submitted for appeal, and they were confirmed demonetized. So then I had to contact Google and like, hey, and then it took like a week, and they were like, sorry about this. They're monetized. That wasn't against the rules. I'm like, we're criticizing a politician, dude. You know, like, what can we say?
Unsettling.
In this case, we're talking about microchips that the Pentagon has announced.
Yes.
On 60 Minutes.
60 Minutes,
Yep.
CBS. Is that CBS?
That's CBS.
Are you going to get the microchip?
I am not going to get the microchip.
I want to know, is it proprietary
But
software?
Ian, I will get the neodymium magnets in my fingertips.
Oh, I am sold.
You know about that?
No.
Do you know about this biohacking thing?
No.
If they cut open your fingertip,
Yeah.
and they put like it's like a coated neodymium magnet, a small one, and then they sew your fingers up, and when it heals, the magnet vibrates against electromagnetic fields, so it gives you electrosense. So you can actually put your hand on a wall and feel where the power cables are, because apparently it feels different.
Gimme.
Like it's a new sense. You're like, whoa, I've never felt something like this.
Oh, yeah.
Because what happens is the magnet is pulling and pushing against the nerve from the inside and vibrating, so you can like feel like the EMF waves, the electromagnetic waves coming off of electric objects and devices.
I used to put magnets on my...
Lydia looks horrified.
I am
It's
horrified
cool. It's
by
cool.
this.
The problem is your body rejects foreign objects.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, what happens is eventually your fingers just spit them out.
Yeah.
They just get pushed further and further out. So there are some techniques they tried doing. They coat it in a material so that your body ignores it. Some of the early pioneers of this have had the magnets break in their fingers, and you got to get them removed. And there's like infection risks, and your fingertips are particularly sensitive, so getting them sliced open for the surgery.
Sure.
Hey, man. But man, I've always thought that was really cool.
I
Now microchips.
I will get Neuralink.
Will you get
Really?
Neuralink?
I will. I don't know that I'll get first gen.
Did you see the monkey playing Pong?
No.
Dude, you
What?
I
gotta
wanna see
look it
this.
up.
Yes.
Amazing.
So
And it's at the
cool.
end of the video.
Can we go from being very scared about the government planting microchips
Being like,
talking
"Oh,
about
cool."
monkeys playing Pong?
He's
It's fun.
good at it. He's doing it with his mind.
Is it a chimp or is it a monkey?
It's a macaw.
Yeah.
I don't trust the government,
Monkey.
but Daddy Elon, I tell
I
you
know.
what, there's a totally different kind of deal going on with
If
Elon.
he's open sourcing the code and you know what it's tracking and what it's not tracking.
He can open source the code, but I'm still relying on someone else to tell me because I can't code.
Yeah.
So like
What?
you could be like, oh, you know, look, you can look at the code. It's like people say, oh, you can look at the Bitcoin ledger and see. I'm like, no, you can look at the Bitcoin ledger and see.
I can't.
I can't. That's all German
having
or
an interpreter.
whatever. Like, I don't.
Our president speaks English, doesn't speak foreign languages. He relies on an interpreter. The interpreter may as well be the president.
Hold on.
Our
You
president
said,
does not speak English.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Come on, man.
Used to
Turn it down a shot of pressure.
He speaks elderly.
English.
Yes, he does.
I pulled it up. Yes, CNN Business. Elon Musk's company says this monkey is playing Pong with his mind.
So
This
cool.
video is lit.
The monkey playing Pong. Well, so I will mention.
Lit.
Do you know what an EEG is? Electroencephalogram.
Electroencephalogram, yeah.
So you can actually buy them. They've been around for a long time. But there's consumer grade ones. I talked about this before. We bought one where it's a band that goes over your head, and then there's like a bar that goes onto your forehead, and it can detect 2 different waves, I guess. And so there's a reader, an EEG reader on the computer, and there was a red and blue line, and they're like bouncing randomly, and it's like focus and concentration or whatever. I don't know what it means. And me and my friend, we put the EEG on, and we're like trying to focus, and the lines are just random. No
It's
matter
actually
what.
horny and hungry.
No matter, yeah.
too.
But no matter what we do, we couldn't get the lines to move. But then we gave it to his sister, and she put it on, and she could move the red line. Like she figured out real quick, and like the line would like make the line go up, and then she would look at it, and the line would go up. And we're
Very
like,
hungry.
very
Super
hungry.
hungry.
That's right.
Starving.
So we were wondering if these 2 outputs could be used to control a drone, so that you have 2 controls. One is to make it go up and down, and the other is to make it rotate. So you couldn't fly it around because you'd need more sensors.
Sure.
But with just that, instead of a red line on a screen, the drone could be going up and down. So I bring that up because that wasn't invasive. It's a headband you'd put on. You can buy all these things right now. Does the monkey really need to get his brain chipped to be able to play Pong? The answer is no, he doesn't.
He does, so that way eventually you can wear it in your head and type on your phone
Now,
without your fingers.
Aren't you worried about being turned into the Borg?
No,
No?
no.
Why do you want the Neuralink?
Because I want to. Because I think that Elon Musk is right about the interface. That to me, that's really the interesting thing. The interface that we have today with the internet is limited to most people as their thumbs. You know, we like you said, you used to have a full keyboard for walking around all the time. Then it's gone down to your thumbs. If you can manage to just interface with the phone or whatever in your pocket without having the slowness of your thumbs, and you could just access the existing internet by thinking, that's something that I find extremely intriguing, and I think would be a very useful thing to have in your day-to-day life. I'm not looking to be like, oh, I want the internet in my brain or whatever. Having that interface from that removes my hands, you know, the necessity of having my hands do the typing to access the internet, that I think is interesting.
Don't you want to download Kung Fu like in The Matrix?
I love the idea. I do. But I also think that there is a certain amount of well, I mean, I suppose they could, you know, eventually if that is possible, you could download the muscle memory and stuff like
Right.
that.
You need muscle memory, and you need the muscle proteins to actually build up to be able to do half the things.
Sure.
So it's not just about, you know, it's funny when people are like in The Matrix, he plugs thing in his brain, he downloads Kung Fu, and then he can fight. He's like, I know Kung Fu, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hold on. I can watch someone do something, and they can explain it to me, and then my brain's like, got it. And then I'll fall over because I'm not flexible enough and I'm not strong enough.
I just started taking jiu-jitsu about a month ago, and there is a significant learning curve to I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Like for me, if like right now I'm basically at a point where if I can pass guard on someone that I'm rolling with, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I've won. I don't know what to do. So not knowing, but having the information there would be cool, and knowing, okay, this is what I'm looking to do, but the actual executing still would take some kind of, you know, some amount of physical work, I think.
Bro, what if you're actually like a 5'3" morbidly obese dude plugged into a Neuralink right now because you've always your whole life wanted to be a famous heavy metal singer, and you're in the game right now?
Well, you know, then hopefully, you know, he never wakes up.
Hey, at least you can say you can enjoy yourself playing a video game. Not because you know, people talk about, you get the Neuralink, you plug in, and you're like in Skyrim, you're in World of Warcraft or Call of Duty or whatever.
Yeah, you know, I think with VR headsets and stuff like that, that's not super far away. Sensations like smell that you get when, you know, if you're in a place, the way things smell in a place are I don't know that we could reproduce that. But Neuralink possibly could by accessing those parts of your brain. And then you go ahead and, you put on a VR helmet that for the sound and sight. I mean,
I heard that they're actually working on virtual smell by causing electrical stimulation in your ear, in your inner ear.
I tell you, those things Tinder Tinder use would go way down if that stuff was real.
Like right now, we're in a simulation in the real world. Phil, you're actually like some 23-year-old, just like fat kid, and you're like, I always wanted to be a heavy metal singer, and you're in the game. Ian's actually like a tech billionaire who's really smart and clean cut, and he's like, I just wanted to be this like free-spirited DMT crazy guy in a podcast so bad. It's like, it's just
You're
people
like, I'm
playing.
schooling these dudes.
Well, so no, what I mean is like, I'm very hypothetical, obviously, but if it's possible to create a virtual environment where you get to experience that game, how do you know you're not already in it?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people talk about the idea that it's a simulation and stuff like that.
Elon Musk talks about it.
Yeah, I mean,
what if he's trying to break out of the simulation?
Well, then I want him to. I truly think that Elon Musk is I think that he's probably a pretty good dude who isn't like the people at Google.
Yeah, I tweeted tax the rich, and then all the lefties were like, yeah, and then a bunch of conservatives were like, haha, very funny, Tim. And then I tweeted tax the rich, but give all the money to Elon Musk. And they're like, okay, now the left's not happy because they don't like him all that much.
Yeah, they don't like him at all. But they don't like him because he has money and he's successful, and people on the left are,
Yeah, I was really annoyed when he blasted the Tesla into space, and they're like, this is so dumb. And I'm like, well, he needed a payload, he needed a weight, and he made something really cool and inspirational for young people. That's legit,
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I don't like the idea that you got all these billionaires dumping money into politics. So take it all and just give it to Elon Musk and let him build a spaceship to Mars. I want to see that.
When people like someone like Bernie Sanders criticizes Elon Musk, it really, really rubs me the wrong way, because Bernie Sanders has done nothing but live off of of other people's money his entire life. He's produced nothing of value.
He wrote a book.
Yeah, you're right. And then he made $1 million off of his book. Yeah. And he is then he stopped talking about the millionaires and the billionaires and just
no,
the billionaires.
Just the billionaires.
Yeah, now he talks just.
He brought him back though. He brought it back.
Did he really?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You were right. He stopped talking about the millionaires.
Yeah. It's just the billionaires that he's got a problem.
But then he brought millionaires back recently.
Because if you write a book, then you could maybe make $1 million.
Don't you insult me?
Yeah.
I made $1 million selling my book
at a 37% tax rate. Top margin.
Yeah,
rate.
so it's really funny too. I'm kind of stoked on this. The media's collapse because there's this big upset. Everyone's angry about Substack. Substack is where writers can charge a fee and write articles. It's really simple. But now you get these high-profile individuals leaving their main outlets and just doing Substacks.
They're leaving because the main outlets are garbage.
And they're being restricted and they don't make money.
Yeah.
It's like YouTube. Like I worked for Vice, I worked for Fusion, and people are, I loved this. There was some like New York journalists, and they tweeted at me. They tagged me in this. They were like, "Remember Timcast? Man, whatever happened to him?" And then someone's like,
"Whatever happened?"
This was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and they were like, to go from like this high profile 6-figure corporate media job to now what? And someone goes like, "Oh man, his Patreon's only bringing $1,000 a month." They're like, "Wow, that's sad," and I'm like, these people know nothing about what's going on. They live in this bubble where working for the machine is like the ideal. Yeah. And I left and started a YouTube channel, and I was on Joe Rogan and like doing really well, and I was business was expanding and exploding, and now it's better than ever. And these people just live in that bubble. Yeah. So now these news outlets are freaking out because Substack has just taken everything away from them. But I'm glad. They're in free fall. Their ratings are collapsing, and I think what's happening is a lot of people like to say that these media companies get woke and then go broke. They think Vice got woke and then went broke. They think these media companies decided one day, we're going to be woke. Oh no, our money's gone. Some of them went the other way. Some of them were going broke and decided to get woke in desperation. They're like, our ratings are dropping. What do we do? Pander. What can we pander to? I don't know, progressives. At least we'll maintain that
Tumblr.
Audience. What was that?
Tumblr.
Yeah. We got there's a story in the New York Times. I don't think I'll get to, I don't think we need to get too much into this one. Look at this. New York Times writes, a guide to neo-pronouns. Are you a person, place, or thing? We have good news. We're all persons.
Yeah. Are you a place?
Well, hold on.
Are you a thing?
I'm a place. So this image they have, this is the New York Times, mind you. It's an image, and it
Block
says...
the New York Times.
Yeah. Pre, prin, prins, and print self.
no,
Prince.
no, and go F yourself.
Well, hold
No.
on. If someone, there are some limitations. If someone came to me and said, refer to me as your majesty or prince, whatever, I'd be like, nah.
Would you
That's a
refer to me
title.
as Lord?
No.
I'm a Scottish Lord.
Yes.
Yeah,
I bought
yeah,
10
yeah.
Lord Ian.
Did you-
10 by
Lord
10 foot by
Crossland.
10 foot
Nice.
square of land.
I'll
in
use
Scotland.
I'll use whatever preferred pronoun someone wants. I have no intention to be rude. I'm not interested
agree.
in
I agree.
Right.
in upsetting people. I'm not
Right.
interested, and I don't have a I don't have the desire to be like, no, there's only biological men and biological women and da 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 da. Not interested at all. If you have your own pronoun, you're probably an annoying person anyway, so I don't want to hang out with you.
So if someone came to me and said, I met someone at Occupy. They said, Z said, refer to me as Z Zer. And I was like, I don't care, whatever, sure. I just called by by their name. Some of these people also made up their own names. And I'm like, if you're 25 and you're like, my name is, hamster friend. I'm like, you sure?
Yeah, it's.
I'll
like-
call you whatever you want. I'm just like, did I hear you right? All right, you got it, hamster bro.
Exactly. I'll call you whatever you want, but I will call you very infrequently if I have to remember.
Right.
I remember this was funny because it became a thing, and some people were like, they were like, I don't know, I've never heard that. Like, we're supposed to remember that, and I was like,
You ain't gonna forget.
No, I was just like, I'm sitting there like my eyes half closed, like it's like Occupy Wall Street. I'm outside, I'm sleeping outside. I'm like, this is the last thing I care about. I was like, dude, I will call you whatever you want. You can call me Susan if it makes you happy. I literally don't care.
Yeah.
This is like the last thing on my mind. The cops are blaring their horns right now. I'm gonna go get a cheeseburger. It like didn't even occur to me until it started becoming a thing, and now the New York Times is writing about it. And it's amazing because they mentioned that like apparently someone a long time ago tried to make it the pronoun for like nondescript individuals, I guess. And they're saying like it's a new thing with young people. You have to respect it, otherwise you're like transphobic and all that stuff. I'm like, dude, like a young woman who identifies as a woman but calls herself like, Gord and Gordo and Gordo self, like that's not anything to do with like transgender or anything.
No, the idea that there is a significant portion of the trans community that actually does have their own specific pronouns. If I understand correctly, the vast majority of the trans community out there just wants to pass. They just want to be like, if you're a trans woman, you just want to pass and you want to be called she. I totally respect that. If you're a trans man, you just want to pass, you want to be called he. Totally respect that. That's totally fine. I'm not interested in demanding that someone go by the pronouns of their, of what they were born as, like that, or what they were assigned at birth, at whatever. I'm not interested in messing up someone's day like that. And so I think that it's really mostly activists and people that are looking to, or I think it's mostly activists that are looking to make a specific personalized pronoun or something that is unique or whatever. And it's like, okay, I mean, you can, and if you have pronouns that you need me to use, I'll use them, but I'm probably going to be like, this person is a lot of work to be around.
Yeah. I think one of the issues is that there's no way to broach this subject without being accused of being transphobic, because there's actually two different transgender communities, or I should say two different trans perspectives on this. There are some prominent trans people who mention that they view gender as binary, hence they're transitioning between male or female.
Yeah.
They'll say there's like degrees in between or something, but for the most part, I think it's like the millennial and older transgender people, some prominent leftists. I'm not going to name them because they've already gotten canceled several times, but they've pointed out that they believe there's he, she, and if you want to go by they, that's fine. What happened was this particular trans woman got canceled because the younger generation said, you're being transphobic for not respecting neo-pronouns.
Was it Natalie?
I'm not going to say who I'm not going to, I don't want to cause
Sure, okay,
a dragging thing where
Yeah.
they're like, look at this video and he called this person and made all these things up. So, he said this about this person and they go into a brigade. No, I don't want to get involved in that. I just want to point out the difference. Here's what they say at the New York Times. They say, one card explains neopronouns at length. In its facts section, it provides a response used often in the neopronoun community. When talking to people who claim neopronouns aren't real words, yes, literally every word is made up. Neopronouns are real because they carry meaning and are understood by others. That's the problem. They're not. I don't understand half these words. And if you said it to me, I'd be like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're trying to tell me. If someone said their pronouns were pre-prin, I'd be like, I don't understand.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me. And like you're saying, part of the usefulness of words is the meaning behind them.
So the issue becomes neopronouns just get rid of pronouns in general. Because if Ian tells me his pronouns are pre-prin, and so instead of saying, he said he was mad at himself, I'd say pre said pre was mad at Prince self. It's harder to understand what I'm saying and think about it and communicate. Maybe that's on purpose. Maybe they're trying to exert power. Maybe they're young people who want to, assert themselves in a conversation. But if everyone here gave me a different pronoun, I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, I was talking to Ian. Yeah, Pre said that Prince.
Yeah.
He was saying he wanted to go to the mall because he was mad at himself for not buying, his second set of shot glasses.
Which is part of the point that I made about, I'll say whatever you want me to say for your pronoun, but it is difficult to engage with you if you have your own specific pronouns, because there's a certain amount of, when you read, you don't sound out the words, that you know the word, and so you see the word, you identify it, and it does, you know what it says because you're familiar with the whole word. And our brains work like that when it comes to talking too. We don't have to think about the words we're going to use. You have to think about the idea and maybe how to articulate it, but you're not thinking about how do I say this. If you have a new word in your lexicon, or if there's a special word for a person, you have to really put thought into it, so it does become an awkward way of speaking.
It's like telling you have four names. But now one thing that's happening where the left is getting angry is people started calling themselves, their pronouns are BLM and BLM self. So you'd be like, oh, I was talking to Ian. BLM said that BLM was mad at BLM self for not buying BLM's second whiskey glass set. I get it. And they're doing ACAB and ACAB self.
Oh, good.
So
I'm glad. Thank you.
I love it.
All right, well, I'm going to read more. Oh, no. Many people who use neopronouns don't just use one set. They select a handful and show off their collections on websites like pronouny.xyz, a site that provides usage examples for neopronouns. Users make their own pronoun pages like this one, which includes Z, Zem, Zer, Moon, Self, Star Self, B Self, and Bun Self. Sorry if I have too many pronouns, the page creators wrote.
Bun Self is from now on. Call me Bun Self.
Okay,
that's mine now.
Bun Self.
I like it.
I do like Bun Self,
I
but
like B.
basically for rabbits, not for anybody else.
Okay, that'd be cute. Yeah.
Yeah, Bun wanted, Bun was telling me Bun wanted more carrots for Bun Self.
I love it.
Bun
Makes
Self.
sense.
You can use just one set, or they them if there are too many. So here's where it gets interesting. I know a lot of people think this is silly. I'm down for respecting people within certain contexts. Behind closed doors, we have to make fun of each other. We don't not everybody likes each other, but we try to be good to each other to the best of our abilities. At least I think that's a good thing. You're out in public, you see someone you don't like, you smile and you nod. Then you go behind closed door and say they smelled like farts, whatever.
Of course.
So if someone comes up to me and they're like, "Is my protons?" But you got it. I got no beef. But if I'm not hanging out with you, I'm gonna be like, I think this. Here's why I think it becomes a problem. Many states are passing these laws that say your company, these jobs, have to use your pronouns. That's it. It's in the law. You know what? I'm gonna stop. I like this. I'm a fan. You know why? This is legit culture jamming. This is exploiting the system and pointing out the holes and how they don't work. So in New York, you are entitled at your job or as a customer to have your pronouns, your name respected. It's a human rights law in New York City. If you work at, say, Starbucks, and you demand to have a certain set of pronouns, they have to use them. Otherwise, they're violating your human rights. It's a violation of your gender expression. Okay. So to what limit? If the New York Times is straight up saying you can use 50 different pronouns, your manager better start doing it. So I'm like, okay, let's play that game. I encourage people to adopt pronouns that they feel comfortable with and make something of it, I guess.
I get what you're saying, but I think that eventually and probably very quickly will become detrimental to the actual trans community, because the more difficult you make it for people to navigate polite society, the less interested people will be in being polite. They're going to say, well, it's just too much of a pain in the dick, so, pardon my French. And they're just going to be like, screw it. I'm just going to do, whatever. I'm not worried about this person's, blah, blah, blah. And then actual, people that have, have transitioned, that, genuinely do get their feelings hurt if they're misgendered and stuff like that. They're going to be the people that are going to pay the price.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that there is a certain, to a certain degree, there are people that will do things like have their own pronouns, their own personal pronouns for a narcissistic reason, and they're going to hurt actual trans people, and they're gonna end up making it bad for people that are actually trans.
I've actually mentioned this. I was telling the story about New York. When the story first was breaking, it was like a few months after the law was passed. I started exploring what New York City had said in terms of pronouns, and they said any. And so I actually I reached out to some friends. I said, I need to find a human rights lawyer, like someone who litigates and like actually understands this, and some advocates. And there was a lot of confusion, but I spoke with one lawyer who basically said, if you tried gaming the system and making up some ridiculous pronoun, they would laugh you out of court. And I was like, so if I went to a restaurant and I used some ridiculous like Asian stereotype for like me and my family, and just like offensive words, they said I refuse to say these things. You think if I sued, the judge would say, get out of here, you're screwing with us.
I think I disagree totally. But
well, so this lawyer said, there's a reason why we have laws and we have judges. Judges interpret the law. If the judge sees that you're making a mockery of the law, they will just say, out, we get it. It's not legitimate complaint. And then I said, so you're saying if I dress in a way that is deemed to be a joke or illegitimate, the judge can just throw me out? And he goes, yes. And I said, so what happens if an actual trans person walks up to a judge and the judge says, you're not a woman, and then says, get out of my courtroom? That opens the door for them to actually suppress transgender rights. Yep. And that's when the lawyer was like, well, these things, like the general idea from the lawyer was, it's true. They could happen. But most of these judges understand the spirit of the law. And I was like, listen, I'm willing to bet there's going to be a conservative judge in one of these jurisdictions. And if you're telling me they have a right to laugh someone out of the courtroom, it will be an actual trans person.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess.
Especially if you're looking at people now who are becoming aggravated by the excessivity of it. They become judges in the future. The 17-year-olds now are going to be judges in 20 years.
I don't, and the thing is, I don't know that it's actually really excessive. I think that things like that story again are such a small case. Like there are such a very few people that would want to be. Do you think that it would be more than? Do you think that?
I was just gonna. I physically express myself while you're talking, just so you know, I'm gonna have a counterpoint. But this is from Tumblr 10 years ago, and it's now in the New York Times.
It is, but I still don't think that there's a lot of people that would be using their own personalized. Because we already talked about the fact that most trans people just want to pass, and they just want to be. They want to live their life as as a trans woman or as a trans man. That's it. I think that a very small minority want the specialized specialized pronouns, and I do think that is more about narcissism than about actually being transgender. I think that it's more about I want attention and stuff.
I think you hit the nail on the head with this one, that it's ultimately going to be more detrimental for trans people.
Yeah, I think it'll hurt trans community.
Well, let's jump to the last thing. I was saving the best for last because I'm going to go off on this one.
All right.
We got this story about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You may have seen it's a new Disney Plus show, and get what, go broke, baby, because the last rumor report we were covering is that there was this scene in the show. It's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier from the Avengers movies. They're walking down the street and they're arguing, and it's the Falcon's a black dude and the Winter Soldier's a white dude. Some cops pull up out of nowhere, and they walk up to Bucky, the white guy, and they're like, is everything okay, sir? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. Is this man giving you trouble? And they're like, what are you talking about? And then Sam is like, what's going on? And the cops are like, sir, calm down. And then Bucky's like, don't you know who this is? And the cops are like, oh, man, oops, it was the Avenger. Oh, geez. According to the rumor, this obvious Black Lives Matter narrative soured a bunch of people who turned the show off and stopped watching. I don't know if that's true or not. That's a rumor. But apparently we're hearing a lot. I'm seeing a lot of posts on Twitter from people who are like, I just couldn't do it. It's so over the top and absurd. Had nothing to do with the plot at all. Literally. It was like, they're like, we got to stop these super soldiers, man. And the cops pull up and they're like, hold on there, sir. We're going to do a racism. It's like, it had nothing to do with the show. Right. All right. Well, we got a new one for you. Captain America is an incel.
Oh.
Here we go, baby. The rap says, incel Captain America is so perfect. We know it's wrong to enjoy the whiny and murderous John Walker on the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it feels so right. I tweeted the wokeness in the Falcon and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is getting too thick to be enjoyable, because the latest episode was like Zemo, who's the bad guy, is like, this lady is a super soldier and now she will be. Oh, spoiler alert. Sorry, I guess. So if you're not ready for this, spoiler alert. Anyway, I'll continue. The anti-hero guy, Zemo, he says she will become a supremacist now that she has super soldier, serum in her veins or whatever. And it was like, the idea was basically that people who gain power crave it and then start believing that they're the only ones who should have power, who can solve the problems. And he's like, the Nazis believed it, the Avengers believe it. And now you've got this rogue group of, extremists, globalist leftists who kill innocent people to get their way. The rap says, let me just read some of this for you. John Walker, a.k.a. the new Captain America, showed us his true self on the Falcon and Winter Soldier this week. In more ways than one, the new Cap has struggled to feel like he belongs in a world full of gods and aliens and super soldiers, and for good reason. He's just a regular soldier the U.S. government decided to name the new Captain America without consulting, so far as we know, any current MCU heroes. He hasn't been trained to fight these battles, so of course he's going to get whooped. And so we have this new Captain America. He's just trash at his job. He's embarrassed and certainly looks like he hasn't been sleeping because of his frustration at being sidelined by actual heroes. There's an easy remedy to the issue: partner up with Sam and Bucky and follow their lead. But this toxic masculinity, Captain America can't do that. He's freaking Captain America. He's supposed to be the lead. He can't take orders from these sidekicks, even though they're better than him at everything. Even though they actually fought superhuman folks and worse before. Even though they have some idea how to operate freely like this, and John Walker doesn't, the show is called The Falcon and Winter Soldier, but this guy thinks it should be the Captain America show. For most of the episode, the new Captain America is a huge clown, seething with rage about his numerous inadequacies, like some kind of message board incel wondering when we're finally going to talk about men's rights. And then he gets a hold of the final vial of super soldier serum, and he puts that stuff in his body, and he graduates to Captain Clown. They say way back in the first Avenger, Captain America, the creator of the original serum said that it amplifies everything that is inside. Good becomes great, bad becomes worse. Steve Rogers was good becomes great, and it looks like John Walker is the other one. It's kind of a strange arc for John. He was originally presented as idealistic and excited to help, but he so quickly went from that to being a tool without much of a de-evolution. He just was a good guy, and then he was yelling at the real superheroes for being so good at their jobs that they're making him look bad. But I like where we ended up. I like seeing this trash person angrily beat down bad guys because he hates them so much, and then tarnish the uniform and the shield by beating a guy to death in front of a crowd of people to get revenge for his injured or dead partner. It's disgusting, and it felt so incredibly wrong, and it was absolutely a thrill to watch. I'd love for blah, blah, blah. Okay, you get the point. All right. I'm gonna thoroughly give this a whooping and a debunking. I'm actually interested to see the next episode of Captain America, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because you may be thinking to yourself, wow, Tim, this show certainly has gotten woke, and these woke media outlets are certainly pointing out that Captain America is an incel, and I must stop you there. What we're actually getting, if you actually watch the story, if you listen to the words of the characters, is criticism of critical race theory and the woke left. First and foremost, the bad guys are globalists. They're called the flag smashers. They wear masks. They want there to be no borders, and they're willing to hurt innocent people to get it. That doesn't sound like incels or the far right. Baron Zemo, who is the anti-hero they break out of prison, he says she is a supremacist. Now that she has this power, basically she's going to think she's the only one. So what ends up happening is the narrative presented by the rap is that Captain America is a regular guy who feels inadequate because these other super soldiers exist. And these super soldiers are supremacists who they think they're the best. And this Captain America guy in one scene looks at Bucky Barnes and he says, "It's so easy for you, isn't it? With that serum coursing through your veins."
Another time.
Then he gets a hold of the serum and takes it and becomes a villain. And do you know what I see with this? Replace super soldier with white privilege. and you get a guy who doesn't have it, who is
Behold,
jealous of those
nature's
who
true
do,
power.
who will do anything to have it, who looks in the face of Bucky Barnes and says, it's just so easy for you with your white privilege. And then you have these far leftists who believe they're the only ones who can save everything because they have this power, like
will
the white
not
progressives. And it sounds to me like Captain America represents critical race theory, Black Lives Matter, and the woke left, angry at those who have the privilege they want, and they're willing to do anything to get it because they hate those. They are whiny losers. And it's funny that the Rat sees that and says, this guy's an incel. No, he's a guy who was looking at this world of superheroes that he wasn't a part of and angry at them for what they had and wanted it and said, they don't deserve this. I'm the real hero. Sounds to me like he's criticizing white privilege. Would you agree, sir?
The land fights for us.
There's my rant on that shit.
I see your point of view. That makes a lot of sense, actually. It's very meta and pretty interesting.
I wonder if the writers were actually going for like a woke thing because they did that police thing early on.
Yeah.
But I watched this, and when I first saw Zemo say, like, oh, she will be a supremacist, and I was like, oh, come on, don't go there. Like, are we really going to do this? Are you going to make a thriller about superheroes turn into a, beat you over the head with this progressive stuff? And then I actually, watched through it, and now I feel like they're actually critical of left. It's similar with Black Panther. Black Panther was, like, the left loved it. You've seen Black Panther?
Yes.
So, like, the left was treating it like this great accomplishment, and it was so amazing, but it was actually politically nuanced. It was a nation with a literal wall around its borders refusing immigrants and refugees versus an ethno-supremacist who wanted to take over the world and supply a certain race with weapons. And I'm like, that's a nuanced political take. I dig it. Now we got the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and they're literally doing what appears to be a mockery of wokeness.
I don't know that. I mean, I think your analysis can definitely be. It's reasonable. I don't think the writers are intending that, but I do think that you probably hit the nail on the head, or at least you've managed to see something that possibly the writers did not see.
I'm not. Yeah, right. So I'm not entirely sure that the writers thought this all through. But is it possible it's projection? Like so much of what the left and the critical theorists and the woke people do, they project.
I want it to be. I suppose that it is possible because it does make sense. I imagine they would not be happy to hear that analysis. But
sell Captain America.
I'm not a fan of like I thought WandaVision was good, and WandaVision I understand that they're your criticism of WandaVision is legitimate. She was the bad guy.
First 3 episodes are trash.
Yes.
Not even a real show.
Yeah.
She's torturing people.
Yeah.
And then she's the good guy.
Yes.
Well,
That
spoiler
sounds
alert.
a hot. Oh, whatever.
Yeah. At this point,
It sounds like these are mini series. It's not going to be a recurring season or anything. So it's over already. It may as well have been a movie.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing that WandaVision. A lot of people pointed out that it's like a. Let me stop here and start over. I've heard this meme a lot. I don't know if it's true. They said a male power fantasy is Die Hard. He's climbing, stepping in glass, he's got a gun taped to his back, and he's going to save the day. The guy, he's going to fight back and defeat the terrorists. And a woman's power fantasy is the romantic comedy where the woman seems to bumble about and do everything wrong, but the guy ends up falling for her anyway. So you look at WandaVision, and it feels like it fits more of the traditional female archetype. That she's angry, she's mad at everyone, she gets whatever she wants, she does whatever she wants, she's torturing people, and in the end, she's still supposed to be the good guy.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if that is the female archetype or not, but it does.
Probably just an offensive meme.
Probably just an offensive meme. But it does seem like, I mean, I suppose that again, that is a legitimate way of looking at it. But I mean, when I said that I liked WandaVision, I suppose that I mean that I found it entertaining. I didn't find it offensive. Because they are characters that I cared about. Like I cared about Vision, and I cared about Wanda Maximoff. I also think that because the Scarlet Witch is one of the most powerful characters, if not the most powerful character in the Marvel Universe, I think that what happens to her matters. Certainly far more than what happens to the incel Captain America that they've come up with, and so the story is more compelling because this is a completely new character that I don't much care for, and I watched the first episode and I haven't really watched any other episodes of
Falcon
and Winter Soldier. I do intend to, but I was going to wait until there were more.
I gotta be honest, I'm kind of bored of it because it feels like it's just too B tier.
Yeah,
the stakes aren't high enough. Not enough's happening. The characters don't matter enough. There's not enough high level anything to it.
I agree about the characters don't matter enough. Like, Vision was an integral character in from Ultron on, and same thing with Wanda again being the most powerful character in the Marvel universe means the stakes are higher.
We'll see if the Get Woke and Go Broke continues, because with this article from the Wrap, whether my analysis is correct or not, a lot of people just view it as getting woke and they're not going to want to watch it. Yeah, it's preachy.
I heard Jeremy on the Quartering talking about people turning it off, and then I think it was we
talked about it as well.
You guys, did you talk about Overlord DVD too? Because I went and I listened to his video on it. After
He's like the progenitor of the rumor, so I don't know if that's true or not, but it was like it was a way to talk about what was going on with the show in general.
Yeah, so
I mean, I'm stoked for Multiverse of Madness.
What is
Doctor Strange?
Yes, and that's going to have Wanda in it as well, right?
Yep.
I mean, they're characters you care about.
I gave up on it, man. Once I don't know
what?
Marvel, all the Marvel crap,
all of them,
all the cartoons. It's like cartoons for adults, like all the CG crap. Like it's like they tend to have this like invincibility behavior where they're all like there's no fear, the characters aren't afraid, so there's no it doesn't feel like this impending like danger that you feel with a really good hero that's afraid for their life and fighting for their life. And then in the background of it, there's just all this cartoon stuff going on in the guise of like CG explosions that are fake, ships that are fake, lasers that aren't real, and it's like, man, I play video games I want to be interactive if I'm going to be having that sort of cartoon.
But we did get a really important point someone just brought up in the super chat that I just saw. There's a scene before the cop pulls up and while they're arguing, and Sam and Winter Soldier and Bucky are walking, and some little kid goes, "Yo, it's Black Falcon," and he goes, "I'm just a Falcon." And he's like, "You're Black Falcon." He's like, "Nah." Like, and that was some, So this is B Young mentioning, "Isn't that anti-woke?" I'm like, I remember that. It didn't get as much play among the commentators. And it was legit.
I'm just Falcon.
And he is just Falcon. I think Anthony Mackie kills it. And I think Falcon's an awesome character. I'm stoked. I was excited for the show. I just feel like it's not,
He got beat up by a Tic Tac.
I mean, that was great. I thought that was awesome. I like the character. He's cool.
Yeah.
He's like a military guy who got this experimental suit. It's legit. I think he could have done they could have had a better introduction for him, whatever. But I'm stoked. I really like that. When he was like, "I'm just the Falcon." That's right. They're making that point. And I'll add something else, too, because I've been watching a lot of Star Trek The Next Generation. I've seen them all a million times. I'm watching them again. Today's episode blew my mind. I'm watching it on the BBC. It's like 4 p.m. or whatever. It's the one where Worf's son, Alexander, comes back from the future to try and teach himself how to be a warrior. And there's a point where they don't know it's his future self. And he's telling this, this kid who's like, 10 years old, no one on the Federation starship thinks of you as a human because you look like a Klingon. And he's like, and this kid, he goes, "That doesn't matter." And he goes, "Yes, it does. What you look like does matter." And I'm like, that's amazing that Star Trek The Next Generation, way back then, was anti-woke, was critical of this idea that being judged based on how you look mattered. And it was like this guy who was wrong was telling the kid, you have to leave and be with your own kind. And I'm like, they were actually being critical of the racists. And now it's come full circle and they're being critical of the left.
Yeah. I mean, that was, that's what the dream of Dr. King was, where people were respected for their own humanity. And that was, I heard James Lindsay talking about this, that during the civil rights movement, you didn't see, African Americans walking around talking about their blackness. They were holding signs that said, "I am a man."
And I remember that,
And it was an appeal to their humanity. It's like, look, I'm a person just like you. And that's, I think that seeing the individual is the important way to view people. It's not seeing the group that they come from.
And I remember that famous quote from Dr. King where he said, I have a dream that one day there will be a black superhero who isn't called Black Falcon. He's just the Falcon.
Yes.
Dude, Disney.
I remember that one too. he said that in Selma, right?
Disney
That's what
Yes,
trashed
right.
Marvel and Star Wars. They trashed it. We watched Fantasia 2000 a couple nights ago, and the animation was flat. Walt Disney was gone. The magic of Walt Disney, the guy who created that animation style, that flowy movement, is dead. And you can see that in Disney's art. He's gone. He's not there to oversee it and to say what's crap. Man, that company is just in name only, and
Right.
that's money gone wrong. You think money in politics is bad?
Rian Johnson should be put on trial. But
Yes.
We demand reparations for what he did in Star Wars.
He should-
No, that
he
was
should-
a Babylon
That
B
was Babylon
joke.
B,
Yeah.
yeah.
he should definitely face a
Tribunal.
Pay
trial.
for those crimes. Yeah.
I mean, I'm being generous by giving him a trial, but it should probably be just a quick trial.
All right.
All right.
Let's go to Super Chats, everybody. If you have not already, do us a solid and smash that like button because I don't want to get into too much, but there's been a weird thing where we've been likes have been just going away or whatever. But if you do like the show, leave us a like, comment below because we appreciate it when you support the show. And go to timcast.com, become a member. We're gonna have a great exclusive members only segment coming up after. We're gonna be talking about a convention of states. Right? Is that what we're gonna do?
That's what we're going to talk about.
We already thought about it. We got to do it because you're Article 5 Convention
Article 5
of States.
Convention of States can make the dissolution of the United States legal if necessary to avoid war, to avoid a
Awesome.
death toll.
Timcast.com. We'll be talking about that around 11 or so. It should be up. But let's read some super chats. We got Roddy the Rotsky says, "Hey Tim, we know your guest on Friday was a CCP mouthpiece. What with his being a contributor on their state news, I wanted to at least shout out your work you've done studying China and not just letting him spew propaganda." Well, I always enjoy having people of different opinions. And I certainly had my arguments with what he was saying. I think I did like a 4-minute rant where I was like, here's what China's doing. Here's why it's bad. Here's what's going to happen to us. We're losing our rights. Billionaires are becoming deferential to China. Then they're putting money into lobbying with our own politicians so that we vote against our rights. I think those conversations are important, whether or not they're perfect. We're going to have a lot of people come on the show probably are going to have bad opinions. So, yeah, it is what it is.
You had Vosh. So.
Yeah, we had Vosh and Destiny, and I respect them for doing it. I thought
But
it was
Destiny's opinions aren't nearly as bad as Vosh. I think Destiny's got totally respectable opinions.
Yeah. Destiny was actually fairly smart. I just disagree. Well, I should say Destiny was smart. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I mean he has interesting arguments. I think he was just lacking information on a lot of things. And there's a lot of people on the left who simply we know different things, which
Sure.
shapes our opinions. And then we get in arguments and we're like, wait a minute, and then there's like a clash, and then we're adamant on our stuff. So Destiny, I thought was actually great because he defended Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
He like if he can see it, he's honest and he assessed it. I respect that. I think some people have brought up that Vosh said that lying to get your way sometimes is acceptable, and
I mean, Vosh is just bad.
hey, look, I'm willing to have whoever. So
I mean, if it's there's
We
nothing
argued
wrong
for
with
like 4 hours.
there's nothing wrong with having people with bad opinions on it. Makes for good YouTube videos.
Oh yeah, all right. Let's see what we got here. Kayla Rain says, Tim, do you think this will ever actually stop though? The media are like Charles Manson. Not me. I just told them to. So this is becoming the norm. Yup. Yeah.
I don't even understand what she was saying.
The media is going to keep putting out these lies and framing things improperly and then acting like they had nothing to do with it. Like when they say, that the prosecution is winning.
Yeah.
Dude, if you've been watching this trial, you're probably laughing at how clownishly bad the prosecution is.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how Slate actually says, is the defense floundering?
I was listening, or I was in an exchange today with a young lady that was sure that Chauvin, was
Guilty.
and blah blah blah. And I'm like, the prosecution hasn't even rested, and the defense hasn't even presented their case yet. How can you be sure? And she was just adamant that he was. And I'm like,
Let me lay it out. We've only heard from the prosecution so far. They've had about 1 or 2 good days. And a good day doesn't mean a great day or a slam dunk day. Even within one of these good
Through
days,
this
the defense still got to
land, we
make
are
your slam
all
dunk.
connected.
When the medical examiner said, she was
Harness
asked, if
the
you
elements.
saw George Floyd in his apartment, and he was dead, and you came in, how would you assess this? And she says, a drug overdose. What if he didn't have drugs in the system? Heart failure. Reasonable doubt. What these people don't understand is the burden is on the state.
Yeah.
So if they're looking at it like
She was Canadian, you know. Go ahead.
right.
So.
If they're looking at this like the state doesn't need to prove he was guilty, they just need to suggest it. No. They got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So the defense was very effective at raising reasonable doubt in almost every single circumstance, even getting one of the paid expert witnesses to admit Derek Chauvin used less force than authorized, which intent is out the window. That's 2 and 3 are gone. Murder 2 and 3 are gone. Because if he was authorized to use a taser and he didn't, because he wanted to use lesser force, then murder 2 requires the intent to murder. Murder 3 requires the intent to cause harm, which results in death. But he chose to use less force.
Yeah.
How are you going to get him on that? Manslaughter, maybe, but I still don't think so. I'm not an expert. Legal Insurrection disagrees. They say he might get manslaughter at this point. We'll see.
I'm not getting how news media can write articles like, did Tim Pool just commit murder by slamming a brick into a guy's head? And that can be the title of the article. And of course, in the article, like, no.
The land shall
But
come
the
for
title of the article,
It'll say-
did this person commit this heinous crime?
It'll be
You're
like,
no.
while Tim Pool was nowhere near the man and never had a brick and has nothing to do with this story, we're still questioning whether or not his actions could have ultimately...
I mean, just because it's a question mark and the word did doesn't mean that you're not accusing. Like, at some point, you can't just say something illegal in a video game.
Free speech, bro.
Apparently.
You can ask
in a video
In a video
you can
game.
ask a question.
That's the...
you know.
Look, the in a video game thing isn't real. Like these leftists... Have you seen this?
I've seen Hassan do it, yeah. In
It's
Minecraft.
not a legal
or-
defense, dude.
or
It won't
in
work.
a video game, yeah.
They don't understand, like, when you for those that don't understand, they'll say something like, we should, commit X crime in a video game. No. That's not how things work. The question is whether or not you intended to incite to violence, not what you said. So there's a bit from The Whitest Kids You Know where he explains, he's like, my lawyers told me that I can't say, and then he says something about the president. I'm told, I
land
can't tell
fights
you
for us.
to come at this point at 7 p.m. and bring with you these things. And like he goes through this, the point is when you watch that, you know it's a comedy show and he's joking and he's not actually intending to incite anything. When you watch a political commentator who's